Welcome to today's presentation titled Rental Filters for Refinery Solutions. Our goal is that our attendees, refiners, will see quick solutions to quality and reliability challenges by installing rental filter skids. My name is Robert James. I'm the Global Marketing Director for Oil and Gas and Refining. I've been with Paul for 33 years with experience in the industrial filtration marketplace. During today's presentation, if you have a question, please use the question and answer text box on your screen, and we'll be answering questions at the end of the presentation. Please note that today's presentation includes commercial content, as we will be detailing the Paul North American rental fleet and the benefits seen on a wide range of key applications. In today's presentation, we'll offer an introduction to rental fleets and their capabilities, introduce the Paul Pro Services solution, have a look at the rental fleet, bring forward a number of applications and successes, close out with a summary of the rental fleet program, introduce a range of rental fleet contacts that you can reach out to after the presentation, and close out with questions and answers. In days gone by, many refiners have lived with ongoing issues because they haven't had CapEx monies available to resolve the problem. Now, with the availability of high-quality filter and coalescer rentals, we can truly say, no CapEx, no problem. Rental skids allow refiners to quickly install a filter or liquid-liquid coalescer skid to solve a fouling or quality problem. And the installation time is days to weeks compared to months or years with a typical capital project buying cycle. These rental skids are often connected with hoses to allow startup in hours after the skid is received on site. Ideally, rental skids are a no-compromise solution with respect to technical requirements in the refinery to facilitate safe and reliable installation and use to meet all refinery specifications. Ideally as well, the skids should be large enough to handle the entire process flow at low enough flux rates to provide acceptable filter life. When these are achieved, it's very common for refiners to purchase the rental skid after it has been in service for a few months, when they have truly proven that they have a no-compromise solution regarding technology and performance. Rental fleets can be an effective way to meet your needs for continued product quality, productivity, and reliability. Examples such as keeping hydrotreaters online, avoiding 1 to 2 week long unscheduled shutdowns to replace catalyst, millions of dollars in revenue at risk during this type of operation. Maintaining steam strip diesel product quality, again, millions of dollars in revenue per week at risk if you're off spec. Avoiding market visibility issues on production or product quality. Reducing turnaround time to maximize revenue from existing assets. How do you extend time between scheduled shutdowns or reduce turnaround duration to get back in production? Filter coalescer rental skids allied with reliable solutions will drive huge bottom line improvement to refinery operations. A typical rental filter installation will include a particle filter to provide particulate control to meet the application needs, and may be in place to ensure long coalescer life when liquid-liquid separation is also a requirement. So if that's the case, you'll also have a liquid-liquid coalescer skid. Typical capabilities here are to provide free water removal as low as 15 parts per million by volume. It's important to note it's essential to select high-efficiency filters and coalescers for effective problem resolution. Paul Corporation brings you the availability of our rentals under the Paul Pro Services banner, where Pro represents protect, renew, and optimize. Our recommendation is that you select Paul Pro Services as your rental filtration solution to maintain product quality and production, for emergencies, turnarounds, and cleanups, in refineries, gas, or petrochemical plants. On the bottom of the slide, we can see a number of key applications in refineries and oil and gas plants that we'll be touching on later in today's presentation. So, let's introduce the Paul rental fleet. One of the most important features is that these skids are designed to meet most oil company technical specifications. For particulate removal, we can handle flows to 9,500 GPM. For liquid-liquid separation, to almost 3,000 GPM. Most skids are designed for 450 psi design pressure at 300 Fahrenheit for sour service. We're using 300-pound raised face weld neck flanges with up to 10-inch inlet and outlet connections. These skids are highway shippable without the need for wide load permits. We're using horizontal vessels to eliminate the need for platforms and to make for ease of element changeout. All skids are using high-quality Paul filter cartridges. If you're looking at particulate removal, 2-micron absolute to over 100 microns with the UltiPleat high flow and profile coreless filters. For liquid-liquid separation, we have our AquaSep Plus, XS, and EL line and our PhaseSep line of liquid-liquid coalescers. Here we can see an example of the 19 HFH 37 PHH skid. This is convertible either for particulate or liquid-liquid coalescer service. For particulate removal, this is a 19-element high-flow filter, good to 9,500 GPM. In LL coalescer mode, this is a 37-element housing, good to almost 3,000 GPM. Conversion from particulate to LL mode is done in the shop. On the far end of the housing, at the far right of the picture, we can see the 10-inch outlet nozzle. This will either be the outlet end in some cases, or this can be an attachment point for an oil sump for certain LL separation applications. Here we can see this skid in 19 HFH particulate removal mode, 9,500 GPM flow capability. We can see at the bottom of the housing where the inlet and outlet valves can be located on either side of the skid to fit your hookup needs. The spare nozzles also allow field duplexing of the housings with pulse-supplied flanged T's so that you can have one on, one off, or you could have two of these online at the same time. Here we can see the same skid now in 37 PHH oil from aqueous solution mode, where the skid is configured to remove hydrocarbon from fluids such as sour water or amine. We can see on the left-hand side at the top the installation of a boot for accumulation of the oil. And once again, inlet or outlet can be from either side of the skid. Here we can see the 37 PHH oil from water mode just from a different view. Please take note of the frame sealed on all sides so that you have spill containment capability with the rental skid. All skids also have delta P gauge and inlet-outlet sample points for proper instrumentation and sampling. Here we can see the 37 PHH skid in water from oil mode. In this configuration, the newest skids we're making have a longer settling zone to give us the capability to work with the higher flow per element capabilities of our new AquaSep XS liquid-liquid coalescer, exceeding even the capabilities of our AquaSep Plus and PhaseSep liquid-liquid coalescers. These skids do come with gauge glass nozzles on the outlet piping to allow liquid level gauges to be installed for water from oil applications. This housing is presently installed on an LPG application running continuously at 2100 GPM, about 72,000 barrels an hour, and has the capacity to go up to 2,960 GPM, a little over 100,000 barrels per day, based on the capability of those AquaSep XS coalescing elements. Also in the fleet are 19 HFH filter skids. These hold 19 of the high flow elements for particulate removal applications. Of note, we can also convert these using internal adapters for lower flow liquid-liquid separation requirements. Here you can see an example of 7 HFH duplex filter skids. These have been a workhorse for many, many years, handling 7 high flow elements and allowing to have one housing on, one off, or both housings online, depending on flow and application requirements. On this side view of the 7 HFH skid, we can see the valving and manifolding that comes as part of this package. We're using 8-inch pipe to allow the skid to be used on truck loading rack applications that have very high flow rates. Here we can see an example of a skid for smaller flow applications. Here's the 1 HFH duplex skid where we've got 2 single element housings. Each housing is capable of up to 500 GPM on clean flow applications. So with one on, one off, you could flow up to 500 GPM. With both online, you could handle up to 1,000 GPM, even with this small filter skid. Here we can see a different 1 HFH duplex skid, here in carbon steel for different application requirements. Now let's look at a number of the key applications where use of the rental skids has made a real difference for a number of refiners. In today's presentation, we'll be targeting applications that resolve a customer's product quality, productivity, or reliability issues. Some of the most common ones include final product, hydrotreater or hydrocracker catalyst bed protection, hydrotreater or hydrocracker water removal from steam strip diesel requirements. This is a very stable emulsion and challenging separation application. Acid gas treating, use of amine systems. But overall, rentals to gas plants and petrochemical sites are also very viable with these types of products. Our first application is on final product, where a refinery has been using underground caverns for propane storage. They were running into issues with free water contamination of the flow before it was moving to molecular sieves to achieve final product quality. They installed duplex 7 HFH pre-filter housings, followed by 37 PHH coalescer skid, and have achieved excellent results protecting the molecular sieves. They've also found that because of the flow capabilities of these housings, they've been able to increase the output of propane with the existing pre-filter and coalescers because of the new capability to go up to close to 3,000 GPM with the Aquacep XS coalescers. Our second final product application is on a heavy oil, where an Asian refinery had acquired a competitive rental skid for particulate control, and it was shown to be ineffective at resolving the issue. They air freighted a 15,000-pound 7 HFH duplex skid that was immediately available in the Americas. This was installed and resolved the issues fully. So it's important to note customers see value in our ability to resolve their issues by combining advanced filter media solutions with application experience and expertise. In this final product example, we have a fuels terminal in North America where they were having problems with fuel additive compatibility. They were able to resolve these issues with a duplex skid using high flow filters, 2-micron absolute, to remove the precipitated particulate, allowing them to ship their fuel at full quality. The other option that was available to them was to ship it to the refinery 4 hours away for reprocessing. So use of the rental skid was a much more cost-effective solution. Here we can see another example at a remote terminal. In this case, ultra-low sulfur diesel was contaminating the tankage at site. They installed a 19 HFH simplex rental skid equipped with high flow filters. This eliminated the fouling issues on the tank, and this was installed for approximately 3 months until issues could be resolved further upstream. Here we're looking at an alkylation system where the alkylate product was seeing issues with creation of sodium sulfate in the alkylate. This was actually reducing output of the refinery because they didn't have the normal flow of alkylate available as a blending component. Installation of a 7 HFH duplex skid and 2 micron ultipleat high flow filters effectively removed the sodium sulfate, allowing resumption of use of the alkylate at full capacity as a blending component. They rented the skid for 5 years and then have purchased it for permanent installation. Now let's look at hydrocracker catalyst bed protection. Here we can see a gas oil feed at a North American refinery. We can see the 19 HFH filter skid that rented and then sold to the customer in 2015. They'd originally rented the skid for about 6 weeks and were so pleased with the performance that they bought it so that it was there for permanent installation. Basically, they were having issues with delta P rise across the catalyst bed that was going to result in premature shutdown of the unit for catalyst replacement. By installing the filter, they were able to stop the delta P rise, keeping the unit online for its full campaign length. This would typically generate millions of dollars in revenue protection by not bringing the unit offline for 1 to 2 week period to do catalyst replacement. Of note, element life is very, very good, averaging 30 days between changeout. They're actually investigating purchasing a larger 60-inch diameter 55 element housing simply to have an even lower changeout frequency. Please take note of an interesting development. Earlier this year, this same refinery put additional filters in safety stock to enable them to reliably process dirtier, lower cost opportunity crude and still get effective protection of the catalyst beds. They've been very happy to do this. The unit processing 32,000 barrels a day, if they can run opportunity crude assumed at $5 a barrel less costly, the refinery can save $14 million per quarter in crude costs. Here we can see another North American refinery dealing with rapid rise in catalyst bed delta P, in this case due to formation of coke particles in their hydrotreater feedstock. They were faced with an unexpected outage, and this was peak summer gasoline season. They installed the 7 HFH duplex skid and use of 20 micron ultipleat high flow filters. They stopped rise in the delta P and eliminated the need for an unscheduled shutdown. They rented the housing for a few years and have now purchased it. Here we can see an example of a Canadian oil sands upgrader in Alberta. The site was experiencing short life with a commodity hydrotreater feed filter. More importantly, it was not offering the needed level of protection, so the site was looking at premature replacement of the catalyst at a cost of $3.5 million and an estimated $15 million loss in production during the downtime to do the catalyst changeout. The site made the purchase of a Paul 19 HFH rental filter skid. An installation of this has eliminated the need for the unscheduled shutdown. Here we can see the actual 19 HFH skid that was shipped to the customer. It's interesting that in this case the customer could process a purchase faster than a rental. But it's important to note that you can consider the rental fleet as stock housings that can be purchased at any time for an emergency requirement. We also see a lot of need for rental equipment downstream of hydrotreaters on steam strip diesels, where the use of direct injection steam creates fine emulsions that are very difficult to separate. Here we can see a case of a refinery who started up a new diesel unit, found their product to be off-spec for water due to problems with that fractionator. They rented a pre-filter and horizontal coalescer for a 12-month period using Aquacept Plus elements and high-flow filters. They found that this temporary installation allowed them to achieve the final product quality that they were looking for, and based on this, they ordered a custom-designed coalescer skid of a 7 HFH pre-filter and 37 element, in this case a vertical Aquacept coalescer that's been permanently installed at the site. Here we can see a picture of the permanent skid that was installed after the rental success. Paul supplied everything that we see in the picture. Here we can see another example on steam strip diesel, where a Canadian terminal was experiencing high water levels in ultra-low sulfur diesel. They had hazy product preventing them from selling. They installed a 7 HFH pre-filter and 2 coalescer vessels. This allowed them to get clear and bright product on the outlet. This was approved for sale after a single pass through the filters. They rented the filter housings for 6 months and then purchased them. Another area of frequent need for rental filters is on amine systems, where if you have a refinery that is unable to process the sour gas being produced, this can put production limitations on many of the unit operations, reducing total refinery throughputs. Here we can see a North American refinery. They were experiencing foaming issues in the amine contactor and regenerator due to high solids in the amine system. The existing filters were simply too coarse and undersized to solve the problem. They installed a 7 HFH duplex rental skid on the lean side using Ultipleat high flow filters, 4.5 micron. The amine is now visually clear and is at less than 1 part per million by weight solids. Filter life has extended into the 4 to 6 month range, and all foaming has been eliminated. The refinery rented the filter for a few years and has now purchased the skid for permanent installation. In this amine example, we can see a Canadian refinery who is using a plate and frame style lean-rich exchanger. Plate and frame style exchangers are very efficient, but they're much more prone to fouling than shell and tube type exchangers. They found that after a scheduled shutdown, the exchanger fouled, leading to an additional 7 days of shutdown time until the problem was resolved. So for future scheduled shutdowns, the customer has rented a 19 HFH filter skid for full flow amine filtration. And over the next 2 shutdowns, with the combination of the rental skid and their permanently installed full flow rich amine filter, they were able to effectively come back online without any further downtime. So they rented the filter for 2 shutdowns and then purchased for permanent installation. And they will be renting an additional filter, 7 HFH, in the springtime for lean side filtration for an even higher level of cleanliness control. So if we look to summarize today's presentation on filter rental fleets, we can see that no CapEx, no problem. We've demonstrated an ability to resolve quality, throughput, and reliability issues. We've shown rapid availability to deal with upset conditions or turnaround needs. We're supplying purpose-built housings that meet refinery specifications with no compromise, making them well suited for permanent installation, should you see that as a benefit after the rental period. The large housing sizes are ensuring long filter service life, also leading to these as a good choice for permanent installation. And overall, we're looking at our broad application experience, helping to ensure that the problems that you have are resolved with the rental or the permanent installation. Paul Pro Services, your rental filtration solution to maintain product, quality, and production for emergencies, turnarounds, and cleanups in refineries, gas, or petrochemical plants. So if you have any interest in a filter rental skid or simply have some questions that you'd like answered, please contact your local Paul distributor, your local Paul contact. You can reach out to the North American Fleet Manager at the email shown. This email is actually received by a group of recipients to ensure fast response. You can reach out to Al Metcalf, who is the North American Fleet Manager, or myself. I've got my phone number and email address listed below. Thank you so much for joining with us for the first part of the presentation. We're now going to move to the questions and answers session. So please submit your questions in the questions and answers box that you see on your screen. We'll work through these as time allows, and if we run out of time, I will be in touch with answers for you after the presentation completes. Okay, yes, and we've got a few questions coming in already. First up, we've got a question from Sam. What documentation is available on the skids? It's a good question, an important question. Dimension and connection drawings and full history dockets are available on the skids, so that you've got full opportunity to evaluate these versus the technical requirements and specifications you have in your individual refineries. And question from Luigi. What happens with cleaning when a rental is finished? Yeah, an important question. Refineries typically have capacity to clean components to what we're classifying as an order-free condition. So what we're looking at is having the refinery clean the housing to this order-free state for return shipment. That way it'll come back to us simply and easily. At the end of the run, the housing will be inspected upon receipt to validate proper levels of cleanliness have been achieved. And we've got a question from Greg. How can you evaluate rental skid performance when installed? An important question when you want to be able to monitor, hey, what sort of efficiency are you getting? What we will do in that case is bring forward our scientific and laboratory services, or SLS team. They will perform tests such as gravimetric analyses to establish parts per million solids levels upstream and downstream of the filter. They can perform tests such as Gammon Aquaglow tests to quantify free water levels upstream and downstream of the unit. And a range of other tests are available as well, depending on your specific requirements. We've got a question from Janie. What's the shortest time to rent a skid? Typically, these are managed on a month-to-month basis. 1 month would be the usual starting point for a rental. When it comes up for final return, partial month usage on the skid is calculated following return of the skid. Oh, and Greg has come back with an additional question. Is there a way to do these tests before renting a skid? So this is talking about the performance tests. Yes, you can actually use the scientific and laboratory services to validate what the performance of the rental skid will be following installation. So you can do evaluations to confirm that in putting one of these skids in place, you will get a resolution of your issues. And I'm just turning to some additional questions here. Can these units be used on Canadian mine fuel? Yeah, mine fuel, you'd be looking at a typical diesel flow. They'd be well suited to those types of application. Lubes was included in the question. Lubricating oils would typically be too heavy for use in the coalescers, but you could handle lubricating oil filtration in particulate removal mode quite effectively with these products. Is the rental by Paul direct or through a distributor? Typically in the United States, we are channeling all of the rentals through our distribution network. They've got full access to the filters for quick supply, and it's an excellent path to ensure that you get the housing and the filter elements needed to ensure consistent, reliable operation. So most of these on a default basis will work through our excellent distribution network. And I'm just waiting to see if there's any, yes, a good question from Al. Do these skids have national board numbers? Yeah, good question. The answer to this is yes, each skid has a national board number. So this facilitates use in the United States market. Every housing should have a national board number for installation and use in the refinery environment. Having these numbers in place facilitates installation and use of the skids for quick and easy startup. So we've run through most of the questions that have come in. I'm just going to hold for a moment and see if there's anything further that comes forward. So I'll give it another few seconds here. Okay, well, I think we'll take this opportunity to close out. If anyone has any additional questions, I believe the system will stay open for a few moments. Please feel free or use the emails in the last slide. Everyone on the call will be receiving an email with the presentation. That should come to you over the next few days. So please feel free to reach out to us if you have any further questions. We'd like to thank you very much for your attendance today. We hope that this has given you some good takeaways that may help you improve your refinery unit operations. And we look forward to working with you in the future. Thanks very much. Have a great afternoon. And bye-bye now.